Hi, this is Kyle McDonald here, also posting under the name of Elucubrator on my blog. After my Sook on the Weekend post, I've now received the email from LexisNexis giving me the link for my newly purchased Burke's Criminal Law as an ebook. So I thought I'll give you a quick demonstration and show you what I think of it. So to open it up, jump into the application that LexisNexis ask us to use, this one called Bluefire. This seems to be probably the best one for them to select because it needs to work with the Adobe Acrobat format where they have digital rights management in the books. And this seems to be about the only one out there that does that job on iOS. So there's the Burke's Criminal Law, or the Annotated Criminal Legislation Victoria in the top left. So I'll open that up, and what I'll do is I'll just orientate this around as a landscape book. I'll quickly just jump through a few things to show you how it works. The application is running on version 1.6, and it seems, as best I can tell, that this was updated in about February. There's a review that I referred to on my blog from a Sydney barrister, posting under Law Geek Down Under, and I think that the app's been updated since that review was done, so hopefully that'll overcome some of the problems. So there's the front page, that looks alright. A quick reference, those are hyperlinks there where I've got on the right hand side crimes, criminal procedure, drugs, summary offences. Tapping on those will take me straight to that section in the textbook. There's the front page, title page. Renders quite nicely, and if I turn into portrait mode I don't seem to get the problems that were discussed in Law Geek's blog with the text reformatting, so they seem to have fixed that up. Details, and I'm just swiping to get to all of these. Now there's the table of contents. I could swipe to it, or if I tap on the screen and bring up this overlay, down the bottom you'll see contents, and that would allow me to go straight through to it. So it's reasonably handy in some respects, but I'll show you a couple of shortcomings that I've found. So let's say I want to have a look at something in the Drugs, Poisons and Controlled Substances Act. We'll jump straight to the table of provisions. Now these are all hyperlinks, so if I tap on any one of those it'll take me through to them. So let's say I want to have a look at commentary dealing with possession of a drug of dependence and trafficking a drug of dependence. It's a fairly common scenario we can get. I need to swipe to get through to that commentary. There's no direct link to it. So here we go, part 5 of the Act, commentary on trafficking. Now I had a bit of a look on this beforehand, so I can tell you that most of the commentary, well all of the commentary, is located under section 71. So I'll tap that. There's a slight pause while it gets there, and here we are. So I'll go through the commentary on section 71. And it's all there. Laid out reasonably nicely. Again, if I turn it into landscape format, it reformats it quite nicely. I've got the option, if I tap there, down the bottom right in the settings. If I go into here I can make the text smaller or larger. Now when I first opened it up the default was on that second last setting there. And if I save that, we should see the text resize. There we go, so that's a little bit larger. Now where it's got the page number, I don't know, but I think that might mimic or come straight out of the hard copy loose leaf service and corresponds to the pages there. Quite why you would have that in the electronic copy I'm not sure. It doesn't seem to be terribly helpful. I can select page numbers in the margin, and I've actually got those set on. I'll turn those off for a second and just turn that back on. We'll just see if we can see a page number in the margin. Right, there's one down the bottom right, 1602. I don't know what that page number refers to and where it fits into anything else. It doesn't seem particularly helpful, and there's 1603. So the act of somebody having a paper copy and saying, well, turn to page 835 and trying to do that with the electronic version is not simple. If you wanted to look at paragraph numbers, which they have here, and that makes sense in the electronic environment, you can do that, but there's no clear way to do it otherwise. Now, a couple of the other things that I can do in here, I can change the way the page turn is displayed. Slide seems to be the best. I can also change the formatting, so I could turn the publisher's formatting off, and I've got the ability to change the different fonts that I'm using, whether the text is justified or not, and the background. So if you want to change something that's a bit easier on the eyes, for example, I can. But I'm happy to leave it on their default settings for the moment, so that'll do us. So let's say I've finished looking at the commentary here on trafficking, and now I'd like to go and look at the commentary on possession of a drug of dependence. Well, if I bring up the contents, what you'll see is I can go straight to the table of provisions for the Drugs Act, but there's no way for me to jump here. Let's just go back to the text. There's no way for me to jump straight from here at section 71 and its commentary to section 73 and its commentary. I could flick and just swipe through the pages. I could go back to the table of contents for the Drugs Act and flick through, and now that I've made the font bigger, you'll see this means it takes me even longer to do it. There we go. I've just tapped on that. Now I've got to wait for it to process, so there's a lag there of about 2 or 3 seconds before it jumps. Now I'm at the reproduced section, and then there's some commentary. So that's a bit clunky. I can put in bookmarks. If I bring in this, you'll see this is the same option I had before with table of contents. I could add in my own bookmarks, and in fact I've already added one in just to show you the section 36 capital B provision dealing with possession of a poison. That's the Schedule 4 drugs. Now I've just tapped on that to try and jump me there. There we go. So if I've looked at that and said, yep, had enough of that, when I bring up the overlay, there's no option to jump back to where I've come from. So if I'd now like to go back and look again at information on section 73, back we go, scrolling away. Or again, I could just flip pages until I get to there. And that slight sigh was because, yes, I think that's frustrating. So again, I could add in my own bookmark. The way I do that is on the top right corner, bring that back up, plus add in a bookmark, section, 73, possession. Save. Now if I look at the bookmarks, I've got 2. And really I'm not too concerned by the date. I'd be quite happy just to do that by page number. So now I've got that 2 ways of doing it. But that's not very quick or convenient. By comparison, let me show you how I'd do the same thing in Goodreader with the PDF legislation. So I bring up the Act, tap in the middle to bring up the overlay, go to the bookmarks, Part 5, Drugs of Dependence and Related Matters. Hit the arrow there to drill down to the detail. Now the heading outlines, that numbering is set by the people who wrote this, and I don't quite know why they've got that coding there. It doesn't show in the physical document, but there it is. So I want to have a look at trafficking. I can flick through. I'd like to jump now to section 73. There it is. Alternatively, I'd like to go back and look at information about possession in section 5. Much faster because they've got bookmarks put in there already. So back into Burke's and the ePub. Another couple of shortcomings that I can see in it. I can highlight portions. I could add a bookmark there. I don't particularly want to do that, but I don't have an option to highlight it or annotate that in any meaningful way, other than just adding the bookmark itself. So if I'd like to highlight that with yellow, to say that's where I want to refer to, I can't really do that. The other thing that doesn't seem to be offered, and I don't know if that's just this publication because of the digital rights management, or if it's across the entire app. I think it might be just the digital rights management. There's no print icon. Now, I'm actually not a big fan of printing from the iPad. The whole point of it is to reduce the amount of paper we have. But there could well be an occasion you want to print, so you can't seem to do that. Two things that I think are useful about it though. First is, with the table of contents, there is an index, and the indexed is, as you can see, with all of those blue links fully hyperlinked. So as I scroll through there, if I find what I'm after with the index, I can tap on that. And again, there's a slight lag between tapping on it and it jumping. I mean, that was probably a good 3 or 4 seconds, which in the scheme of things isn't going to kill us, but that adds up and it feels like a long time. So that jumped me straight to that paragraph in the text, and there I am. So that's helpful. The other thing that is also helpful, again, if I'll bring up the overlay, the search function. So for example, we know late last year, late last year, the High Court handed down the case of Momcilovic. Now, I'd actually typed this in earlier, and it's remembered the spelling of Momcilovic, but just watch that the autocorrect doesn't send you searching for something other than what you are looking for. So I'll just hit search, and you can probably just see the little scrolling widget in the middle of the screen, and there it is. It's highlighted that for me where it found it, and unsurprisingly it's in the commentary dealing with possession. But where are we? We're so far into it. We're in the commentary dealing with section 5, but as you can see straight away it's dropped me into the text, but it's hard to see the context. I don't know where I am. Now if I hit the forward or backwards arrows, it'll search for the next occurrences of that search term. So that's a handy way to get through the text fairly quickly if you're looking for a particular phrase or a particular case. So overall, for a quarter of the price of the hardback with the hardback, and the fact that I'll always have this with me whenever I've got my iPad, it's not bad. There's a few more things that I think can be done to improve it, and in particular, if LexisNexis, you happen to look at this, please put some bookmarks in it and make it easy for us to navigate around the documents. And see if you can do something about the page numbering as well, so that we've got a way of matching page numbers in the electronic document to those in the paper. Thanks very much.